Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today we are ranking the top 10 best weapons in the Warzone meta right now. We've talked a lot about recently how the Vanguard weapons are kind of dominating everything, but when it comes down to it, there's actually a somewhat healthy mix of Cold War, Modern Warfare, and Vanguard guns, at least in my top 10 right now. As we break it all down, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here or if you have not already subscribed, every day I got you covered with everything going on in COD, so feel free to hit that subscribe button. So starting off at number 10 here, we've got an MW gun, the Bruin. This thing has one of the most competitive TTKs over long range in the game right now. It also has relatively easy control. Let's face it, it's an MW gun. It just feels good when you're using it. It feels right, it feels smooth. Everything about the MW guns I love makes me very happy. The Bruin, one of my favorites in the game to run right now. First up, we're going for the monolithic suppressor. We also got the summit barrel on here, largest barrel in this case for the best range, velocity, and control. I also like running the VOK 3x optic on there. We of course got to go ahead and throw on that T-pose reticle. Gonna go for these 60 round mags, make it sort of an LMG AR hybrid. And then lastly, most players are probably going to go for the commando foregrip, although high skill players can definitely go for something like the tac laser and get a more aggressive ADS build that's a little bit more agile and mobility based rather than being just simply control based. Either way, you got a very consistent Bruin setup. Now at number 9, I've got the Type 100. Yes, this has pretty much the best TTK out of all the SMGs in the game, but it's limited by magazine capacity, and obviously the horizontal recoil factor here is a lot more extreme than on pretty much every other Vanguard sub, let alone the other subs in the game as well. So it has its drawbacks. It's definitely a higher scale weapon, so good players can take advantage of this. More average players might struggle with this versus some of the other subs that are higher up on the list, hence why I have it a bit lower. As far as the setup goes though, it's pretty basic as to what we've been talking about recently. Recoil booster, rapid barrel, you got to go for that slate reflector on there as well. T100 stock's going to help out with some of that horizontal control while also giving you a better ADS speed. We're going to go for the hand stop here for the better control. For the optimal TTK, you'd be going for the 36 Russian short. I still prefer the 48 here. It's a little bit slower, but it's also got a better DPM, and I just find more success using the 48, especially in like trios and quads where ammo capacity is a lot more important. I'm going to go for lengthened here. You could also go for subsonic or frangible if you wanted to. Hatch grip for better horizontal control. Gung ho, instantaneous sprint to fire, then quick for some better sprint speed on there as well. Harder SMG to use, but absolutely worth it if you can master it. Now at number 8, I've got the Owen Gun. This thing's definitely had a slight fall from grace. It was clearly the best SMG for quite some time. Some of the nerfs recently to this, while also buffing some of the other subs, have definitely, brought it more in line with probably where it should be. It still has a great TTK, obviously very easy to use after we've all been using it for the past couple of months and gotten very familiar with it. So still a top choice, but not the #1 clear SMG anymore. Here we're going for recoil booster, no barrel because we want that optimal TTK. I like the slate reflector on this thing, even with the magazine getting in the way. I'm sort of, past that, blocking my screen, and I can maneuver around that if I need to. Gonna go for remove stock for better mobility. Definitely one hand stop here to help out with some of that control. The 60 round drums here are another key part of this setup to give you that best TTK possible. Again, lengthened, subsonic, or frangible, whatever you prefer. Going for polymer, gonna go for acrobatic in perk 1 for that better mobility, then also quick for that better mobility as well. So you're nice and aggressive, decent control, and a great TTK. Number 7, we've got the Armaguerra. You'll notice this is a lot of SMGs right now just because these don't have the versatilities of rifles, which obviously are going to be towards the top of the list. But Armaguerra lately is just feeling so good. Fantastic close range TTK, great mobility, pretty easy control like all around. This thing is a really consistent SMG. I have been loving this. It's been my top choice over the past couple of weeks, honestly. So first up here, going for recoil booster yet again. We're going for the 570 barrel. This is going to give you that best close range TTK. Then it's pretty much even all throughout if you're using the 550 barrels. So that's why I'm always going for that. Slate reflector here yet again, pretty basic. I'm not a huge fan of the iron sights, but if you like those, you could always use those instead. For the stock, we're going to go for skeletal. This is sort of the Joe Woe special here. Better aim walking move speed, better ADS, better initial firing recoil. So you got good mobility, good strafe speed. Then you get some better control out of that as well. For the underbarrel, I like the skeletal or the hand stop. Both of those are going to work just fine. If you're really comfortable with the control, skeletal for that faster ADS is always a W, right? But most players probably going to go for hand stop. 9mm 60 here, just your basic extended mag. Again, same deal with the ammo as before. Rear grip, honestly, I feel like polymer is always a great choice. Of course, we've talked about this a million times, but fabric in this case, I really like just because the control is not all that bad. I'd rather get that better ADS and better sprint to fire. perk 1, we're going to go for hard scope, and then perk 2, we're going to go for quick, as always, on the subs. Like I said, this is a ton of fun to use and also very, very reliable. Now, coming in at number 6, I've got the NZ41. Of course, with one of the recent updates, this thing got quite a few adjustments to make it better for control, make it better over range. Now it's definitely up there with things like the STG and the bar. It's just a little bit awkward in some cases. Its recoil is not as simple as some other guns, hence why I have it at 6 instead of, 2 or 3. But this thing, still an absolute beast right now, and finally getting the recognition it deserves after being pretty much obsolete for the first few months of Caldera. So here we're going for MX silencer. We're also gonna go for the Orb Weaver barrel. I like the 2.5 times. If you prefer 3 to 6 or a different optic, always go for what you're the most comfortable with. For the stock, we're gonna go for padded for that better control during sustained fire. Hand stop for the better control, as always. The Sakura 50 here, better fire rate, so the TTK is gonna be great. Also better control and better movement speed, so it's a tad bit more aggressive. Lengthened for sure here. Also going for polymer per usual on ranged builds. Perk 1, Frenzy is decent. I don't really like any of these perks. Like, none of them are particularly great for this build. Then perk 2, we're gonna go for fully loaded just to maximize that ammo. Very fun setup here, and one that's probably new to a lot of players. Now at number 5, we're back on an SMG, the Blixen. This thing is just so good at what it's supposed to do. That's why I wanted to have it maybe above a rifle or two here on the list, whereas all the other subs were kind of clumped together, obviously. This thing to me is the best SMG in the game. It's TTK, its control, its mobility, everything about it is a plus for me. It is great, like I said, at what it's supposed to do. So first up here, obviously we're gonna go for the recoil booster. Also gonna go ahead and run the RMK barrel. This is gonna give you the best TTK. It will hurt your control though. If you want just a laser beam, either go for the F3 barrel or no barrel whatsoever. But for the best TTK, if you're a higher skill player, RMK is definitely the wave. Gonna go for slate reflector per usual there. I like remove stock on here. MB's also not bad. It'll give you some better mobility as well, but remove stock for that max mobility. Hand stop here for the better control. Garanko 54 for the better control, better ADS, also better headshot damage, which is pretty cool. Same deal as always with the SMG ammo here, whichever you're the most comfortable with. Perk 1, I'll go for polymer in most cases just to help out with that control. If you're comfortable, Fabrica is always a great choice. Perk 1, I actually like Perfectionist for the better control yet again. And then perk 2, going for quick per usual on the subs. Nothing ever changes there. Very basic perk 2 selection. But yeah, this thing is just as dominant as it gets right now for SMGs. Now back to the most versatile guns for pretty much the remainder of the video. At number 4, I've got the QBZ. This thing really has not been adjusted in any of the recent updates, and its TTK throughout those updates has remained one of the best in the game. Also has pretty easy recoil. It's like sort of an S pattern, so that's very easy to counter, and it has great range as well. It doesn't have an early drop off compared to any other rifles or anything. Like, this thing is sort of a sleeper gun that absolutely can dominate right now in the right hands. Now, of course, it's a Cold War gun, so let's face it, the setup here is about as basic as it gets. Agency suppressor, task force barrel. We're gonna go for the field agent grip to help out with that control. The 60 round drum, not the fast mag. We don't want that slower ADS. Basic 60 round drum, which looks so weird for some reason. And then also the 3x optic on there as well. The basic Cold War copy and paste loadout, but on the QBZ, it is absolutely frying. Then immediately following that, we got another Cold War gun, the Vargo, probably the best non-Vanguard gun in the game right now. This thing, again, great range, great TTK over that range, and great control. A little bit of a slow ADS, but man, this thing will absolutely shred at 50, 60, 70 meters and beyond, and that's exactly what you want from a rifle that's trying to compete with things like some of the Vanguard guns right now, which are so dominant and so strong. Setup here, though, going to be the exact same as over on the QBZ. We're going for Grew Suppressor, Task Force, Field Agent or Spetsnaz in this case, the 60 round drum, and you guessed it, the 3x optic. Of course, this build would also work for things like the XM4 and the Farah, which are very close to being in the top 10 as well. You can make arguments for those replacing these guns if you absolutely wanted to as well. They're all sort of kind of the same gun in a way, especially with the builds, and they're all very similar in stats. Now at number 2, I've got the bar. You'll see why I have this at number 2 when you see number 1. I'm sure some of you can probably guess it at this point, but really the reason that this is not number 1 in my opinion is just a slight combination of the fire rate and then also the slight recoil that it might have if you're on console or something. This thing does shoot a little bit slower than some other rifles in the game, even some of the ones that we've already covered, and because of that, if you miss some shots, it can be somewhat unforgiving. So it does take good accuracy to really master this gun, but outside of that, it's about as easy as it gets. Its recoil is very simple for most players. Even on a high zoom optic like the 6x, you can almost have no recoil because of the setup we got here. It's got a great TTK like all around. The bar is extremely consistent, minus that slightly slower fire rate. But here we are starting off things with the MX silencer, better control, keeping us off the map per usual. 30-inch barrel, the 3 to 6x optic, like I said, you can zoom all the way in and have very, very good control still. For the stock, I'm going for the wire to make it a bit more aggressive from like 0 to 40 meters if I have to use it there. Gonna go for hand stop for better control. The Clouser 40, which do actually give you a slightly better fire rate. If you weren't using this magazine on here, it'd be even more rough when it comes to that rate of fire, but this does speed it up and make it a bit more competitive. Pretty much a must-have attachment on there. Lengthens and polymer per usual. Perk 1, we're gonna go for hard scope for the better control, and then perk 2, fully loaded, just to maximize that ammo. Pretty easy gun to use, great TTK like all around. You can't go wrong with this thing. But there is one gun that has better control than the bar, a very similar TTK, and it's good on all platforms and a little bit more forgiving. The STG, obviously, this got a slight nerf recently by like 3 meters of damage range, not nearly enough to kill this thing. It's an absolute beast still. No recoil, great range. You can't go wrong with it. There are no cons to using the STG still. So first up here, we're gonna go for MX silencer yet again. 760 barrel, largest barrel in this case. Gonna go for the 2.5x optic on this build specifically. I like this more than 3 to 6. For the stock, I'm gonna go for precision to get some better ADS and also eliminate basically any horizontal movement that this build might have. Hand stop per usual on here, no surprises there. Gorenko 50 for the best control possible, while also keeping up that really, really good TTK over range. Lengthened and polymer, as always. Perk 1 here, we're gonna end up going for nerves of steel, better control while injured, which is basically every time you're in a gunfight. And then perk 2, fully loaded once more. Absolute beast of a gun, and in my opinion, the clear #1 pick and the clear #1 choice. That being said, though, that is going to wrap things up for today. Those are my top 10 best weapons in Warzone right now. Hopefully this video helped you out. If it did, or if you just simply enjoyed it, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here, or if you have not already subscribed, every day I got you covered with everything going on in COD, so feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.